Madam Chancellor, welcome to our programme. It's great to be able to talk to you in Berlin. I just want to get your reaction, though, first to the European elections, the results. Your party came first here in Germany, but the Greens did very well, and you did do a little worse than usual. In general, how do you think it's gone?
Also ich habe mich erstmal gefreut, dass mehr Menschen zur Wahl gegangen sind.
First of all, I was pleased that more people went to the elections than in the last European elections. That's been the case in many countries. Secondly, we have become the strongest party, and this will of course play a role when we nominate the positions within the European Union. And third, it's correct that the Greens actually have been very strong, and it has to do with issues that people are interested in the most these days. For example, climate change, and that is also for my part, of course, a challenge now. We have to give better answers to all these issues. And we have to say very clearly that targets that we have committed to are targets that we remain committed to.
And yet, since you brought this up, I might as well talk about the environment, because it's what every young person practically is interested in, is their existential right. You've made targets, but you haven't kept them. Very many countries have not kept them. Germany is still quite dirty. You decided to put aside nuclear power after the Fukushima disaster. Do you regret that? Do you think there should be nuclear power or more commitment to a clean environment?
Also erst einmal bin ich der Meinung, dass
Well, I'm of the opinion that it's correct that the young people of the world rise up and point out to the older generation what is happening to their future. And we have actually been able to keep within certain limits of the targets. But with the limits of 2020, for example, we have difficulties this year. We are now committed to 2030. I don't regret leaving nuclear energy because I feel that was the correct decision. And I'm strongly convinced that generating energy by nuclear is not sustainable in the long run. We have also decided to phase out power generated by coal plants by 2038. And it's of course a challenge to use neither coal nor nuclear energy. And we have to find a solution to this. We can do this. Here in Germany, renewable energies are already an important part of the energy mix, and we want then to generate more energy by renewables by 2030.
I want to talk a little bit about your relationship with America. You are going to give the commencement speech at Harvard to the graduates for this year. You, for the last nearly 15 years, have been a fierce defender of democracy and freedom on this continent and in the Western Alliance. I want to know how important America's role has been historically in making Germany such a robust democracy.
Ja, es gehört zu den ganz
One of the most important decisions that the United States took after the Second World War was to give Germany and Europe a chance to actually develop themselves, well, economically speaking. That was achieved by the Marshall Plan. America has always defended us, also in the eastern part of Germany, under the reign of the Soviet Union and the former Germany Democratic Republic. The fact that the Iron Curtain fell, that the wall fell. This we all owe mainly to the behavior of the Americans, the staunch attitude standing by us over time. And when we had this double-track debate, Europe in those days, which was a polarizing debate, but it helped us in the end to gain freedom. We are, of course, grateful to America. And in my commencement speech, this will be my main focus, these sort of biographical issues. So this won't be a classic political speech, but a speech also about my own life. And I will try to explain to students and the lessons that I draw from my own life.
The students will be very aware that you have taken a very principled stance. You were the only world leader who greeted President Trump's election with welcome, but based on a commitment to mutual values: freedom, democracy, human rights, tolerance, free press, etc. So they're very well aware of where you stand in relation to President Trump. The first question is it difficult to keep Germans liking America, liking this president at this time? Is it difficult to keep them on side?
In the history of the United States, there were again and again solutions where, for example, in the double-track debate, big parts of the German population did not agree with the Americans. But we have this obligation to forge a good relationship, and we have the duty to grapple with those issues and debate them. Also, in order to seek solutions, sometimes this is done easily, sometimes this is more complicated. But if you say you stand for a multilateral world, and that is what I do stand for, and say only together we can resolve problems, then you have to always work together to find a common solution. And this is what we do. And this is also a characteristic of my relationship with the current President Trump. And I believe this also works in a respectful manner, even if you don't always agree.
I want to show you a few pictures, because these are, you've seen 3 American presidents, 4 British prime ministers, I think it's 2 or 3 French presidents, and many, many leaders have come and gone. You've been a bit of a punching bag for President Trump. He's said some quite strong things, including, you know, your relationship with Russia and all the rest of it. I just wanted to show you this picture because that went viral around the world. I wonder what you can tell me about your personal relationship and your political relationship, because his own White House says he's only strong with the people he considers friends. Do you consider him a friend?
Wir haben eine
I think we have close cooperation, which simply results from problems we've had to resolve together. And this picture also shows that we are indeed grappling with an issue. In every communiqué which we had to declare, I was also the host for the G20 negotiations in Hamburg. We had contentious debates, but in the end, we also found common ground. It's certainly always a challenge to debate, but I very happily take on this challenge. The president has his opinions, I have mine, and very often we also find common ground. If not, we have to keep on talking and negotiating.
So just quickly, the trade war, the tariffs, the president has said that basically German-built cars should be exempted on a national security basis. What's your reaction to German cars being considered a national security threat to the United States?
Naja, ich nehme das zur Kenntnis und wir bringen dann natürlich unsere Argumente vor. Ich glaube,
well, I take note of this. Then, of course, we build our case. I think it's right and good that we have a mandate from the European Union for trade talks with the American government. Germany will hold these talks very seriously. And my argument, of course, is that German cars are not built only in Germany. That, for example, with the BMW, their biggest plant is in South Carolina. This means Germany has much more direct investments taken out by German companies in America than the reverse, American companies investing here. So I think we should look at these issues together, that namely American jobs, American places of training have to be secured as well. And then goods can be transported from there to the rest of the world. Further, I think we should underline that also from the German side we are open to all American companies. Maybe many SMEs don't know that you can trade with us as well. So I invite all American businesses to take a closer look at German markets. We are open and welcoming everyone with open arms.
sich den deutschen Markt genau anzugucken. Wir sind offen und wir begrüßen jeden.
Chancellor, you have won a remarkable 4 elections. It's said that President Obama suggested that you should run again in 2017 after he came to visit you after the election of President Trump. The Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, said to me in her typical fashion, she said, as long as he's there, I'm here. Do you feel that? Did you feel that pressure? And again, I'd like to show you a picture because you tended to have a pretty friendly relationship eventually with President Obama. Do you miss him?
Amerika hat ja sehr klare.
America has very clear rules. There, after 8 years at the very latest, the presidency comes to an end. I was aware of this, of course, on the very first day of Barack Obama's presidency. Our relationship did not start very smoothly. I had been criticized a lot when he wanted to speak in Berlin in front of the Brandenburger Gate, but I said he's not the president yet, and only presidents can speak there. It was not that easy in the beginning. I never reveal what was discussed in private talks, and therefore I will also not reveal anything from my talks with the previous American president. But I say it's the obligation of every chancellor to build good relations with any American president and to seek solutions. This is Germany's interest. This is America's interest. And so you have to make an effort to find solutions.
So you won't tell us whether he urged you to run again?
Nein, das ist
No, this is one of my long-standing principles, that I don't reveal anything from private talks. And that's important for the political culture we have, because we should be able to discuss certain things together.
Do you remember this moment? It went viral around the world when you got a back rub from President George W. Bush, who basically said very nice things about you. You've got a great spirit, he said, you love freedom, you're a great woman. Do you remember this?
Ja klar, erinnere ich mich daran.
Yes, of course I remember this. I thought it was a kind gesture at the time, a friendship. The fact that it caused such excitement and it went viral, to be honest, I could not imagine that at all at the time. It was a friendly gesture.
I want to talk now about Germany and what you've done for Germany in your chancellorship. So it's going to be D-Day next week, the 75th anniversary at the end of the war. I remember being there 5 years ago, and President Hollande gave a very strong speech, as one can imagine, against the horrendous past of Nazism. And I remember looking at you, watching him, because I was there covering it, and I wondered how you felt as he was really railing hard on the past.
Naja, für mich war es eine große Ehre. Die war auch dem Bundeskanzler Schröder schon
For me, it was a great honor, a privilege that was accorded incidentally also to my predecessor, Chancellor Schröder, that we as Germans were allowed to be there. And I mean, it's obvious if you consider what the Germans did, the sort of terror wrought during the National Socialist period, including the Holocaust, and that we today can be part of it, sitting there as guests, as partners and as friends. That was very moving for me, and therefore I did find this speech passionate. And that situation, where Germany and France set up the Normandy format, trying to bring about something for the Ukraine. I was very moved at the time. The Ukrainian president was there, the Russian president was there, and all of a sudden you did have issues related to territorial integrity on the agenda. So it was not only a solemn celebration, but it was also a reminder of what still seems topical these days. So it was very moving for me.
German president on the 40th anniversary of D-Day gave a very, very profound speech about the horrors of the Holocaust. And he said the day of Germany's defeat was the day of Germany's liberation. In other words, the defeat of the Nazis was Germany's day of liberation. Do you agree with that?
Ja, natürlich. Das war zum 40. Jahrestag der...
Yes. That was on the 40th anniversary of the end of the Second World War. And Federal President Weizsäcker gave this speech at the time. And at the time, I still lived in the GDR, so Germany was divided. It was not yet united. So we did take note very much of this speech. And I thought it was a very apt and appropriate description of the situation. And I still think so.
Because analysts and historians today describe you as the face of good Germans, good Germany. And they also say, though, that under your nearly 15 years in power, in some cases, those dark old demons have risen again. Nationalism, populism, anti-Semitism. I mean, very dark forces that we can see are winning in elections to an extent. They talk about your austerity programs. They talk about your compassionate, courageous migration program, allowing a million or more people in. What do you answer to the people who say that, you know, it was a great Germany under your chancellorship, but these dark demons have risen again?
Germany can and will not uncouple itself from developments we see all over the world. We see this in Germany as well. But in Germany, obviously, they always have to be seen in a certain context, in the context of our past, which means we have to be that much more vigilant than others. And I also say, yes, there is work to be done here. We have always had a certain number of anti-Semites amongst us. Unfortunately, there is to this day not a single synagogue, not a single daycare center for Jewish children, not a single school for Jewish children that does not need to be guarded by German policemen. Unfortunately, over the years, we have not been able to deal with this satisfactorily, that we can do without this. But we have to face up indeed to the specters of the past. We have to tell our young people what history has brought over us and others, and these horrors, why we are for democracy, why we try to bring about solutions, why we always have to put ourselves in the other person's shoes, why we stand up against intolerance, why we show no tolerance towards violations of human rights, why Article 1 of our basic law, human dignity is inviolable, is so fundamental to us. It has to be taught to every new generation anew, and you're quite right, the task has become harder, but it needs to be done.
Is that what led you to allow so many refugees into Germany? I mean, people have criticized it, but we notice that it was the environment that was the first in these elections, not immigration. That was down the list. So the voters weren't punishing you in these elections for that. And you said to one of your key ministers during the migration crisis, don't build walls. I don't build deadly walls.
Also ich bin der festen Überzeugung, wir müssen es lernen mit unserer Nachbarschaft.
I'm firmly convinced that we have to learn to live in our neighborhood with a certain balance, and part and parcel of this neighborhood is the African continent, and this is why we have to help people there.